Today on Between the Lines, a soulful look at the human condition with the award-winning actress and humanitarian Diane Ladd. Welcome, I'm Barry Kibrick. Everyone knows Diane from her work in film, stage, and television, but many are unaware of her talent as a masterful storyteller with deep messages of wisdom. With her book, A Bad Afternoon for a Piece of Cake, Diane gives us a collection of short stories filled with meaningful lessons and insights that will benefit us all.
I'm a writer today because I was a reader when I was 11 years old, and it was...
You do not need to prove your state of happiness to anybody.
Most of these speeches were as much as a month in preparation.
Characters, the heroes in this book, are seekers of truth in a story that involves a lot of corruption.
I don't get a chance to really talk about what's real, and this is the first thing to do.
Diane, it is truly a pleasure to have you as a guest on Between the Lines. Welcome to the show.
Well, it's my privilege to be here because I watched your show, and it has humor, it has interest, and it has something very special that I love, and that's intelligence. So this is great. Thank you,
because
Barry.
I have intelligent authors and guests. That's why it works that way. I'm going to let everybody know this is a collection of short stories. They are fictional tales, but as the author P.D. James says, all fiction is largely autobiographical, and much of autobiography is, of course, fiction. So we're going to discuss these issues, these people, the situations, as if they are actually occurring, because that's how, in fact, I felt they were written.
I feel that real. In fact, I'm the best audience in the world while watching a movie. So I'll get into it, and people say, Diane, it's only a movie. And I'll say, don't you know it happened probably somewhere, sometime, or will? Because it comes from the universal mind. Don't tell me it's only a movie. So short stories come, in my opinion, from our experiences in life, people we've met, and what I call the universal mind.
Well, yours especially, and in fact, what I wasn't aware of, and I'm not going to start about this, but your mentors, one of them, my favorite writer of all time, Patty Chayefsky, is...
Whoa,
okay,
yes,
and
yes.
the other is your
you
cousin.
You remind me of Patty a little bit.
Well, you
He and
can't
his
give me a
wife,
better compliment than that. There's nothing that he's written on the screen that I have not adored.
Barry, he was such a down-to-earth human being. He was such a real Mitch, as they say, and his wife Mary were very kind to me. I was like 17 when I met him. I was in the actor's studio, and I somehow got drugged into the playwrights group, which was pretty weird. But Patty was wonderful. I will tell you, he said to me a great compliment once. He said, Diane Ladd, if you stop acting and just concentrate on writing, someday you will be one of our country's greatest writers. And I said, Patty, my father sells medicine for chickens in Mississippi as a living. He's a vet. He's been sick. I have to act to pay the rent. I can't stop acting. So, but he encouraged me a great deal.
Well, then talk about, and by the way, I want to mention one more person. Tennessee Williams is your cousin.
That's right, third cousin.
Okay,
And
I'll forgive you for that.
My first, well, he was, my first play in New York off Broadway was Orpheus Descending, his play. And I might add, it was a play that he had tried to make a hit for over 22 years. And they were making a movie of it finally, and they told him they didn't want to play downtown. And he said, I will not close a good play downtown for a bad movie uptown. So we got to run. The play was a huge hit, and it ran over a year.
Well, I'm going to, you quote him at the beginning, and I'm going to use the quote to lead into where I want to go, okay? The quote is, what is straight? A line can be straight or a street, but the human heart, oh no, it's curved like a road through mountains. Now, the human heart in this particular collection is, in my humble opinion, the touchstone and the common thread of this tapestry, because that is what is running through this. It's not only, in fact, I'll go a little further, it's not only the human heart, but it's also the human consciousness, the human soul, the human condition.
That's what I tried to achieve, and your words are very comforting to my soul. Thank you.
Oh,
your perception helps make it all worthwhile, Barry.
Well, now, you said, I didn't realize how autobiographical, but when you said that your father was a veterinarian, that's what the first story, tadpole tag is about. But let's, again, I'm not going to make the people try to concentrate on the story, but it's kind of a funny...
I did use, only in one story, some of myself. In Tadpole Tag, which I put first, my mother's real name was Mary. My father's real name was Preston, but it had been Percy. Changed to Preston. So I used that, and I used some of his work as a basis.
I want to start with this, children, because they're also throughout the book. Almost every story is filled with some form of childhood experience, or as I say, as a childlike experience so. And the thing in the first story is this question that you ask of the character, is it how you bring them up, the children. And I always love the great debate between nature and nurture, and you hit it right in the money there.
Wow. It's a good question, isn't it?
It is.
Is it how you bring them up? They have their own soul. Is it the school, the people around them? What molds our children, our treasures, part of ourselves, our DNA, we can't protect them from everything out there. We can only give them the best we've got. And we'd better be giving them the best we've got and encourage them. I have a 501c3. Not this book, I have another book I wrote that was a health book, and all the money from that one goes to fight for education across this great nation for the children in this country. Well,
you know something? You, again, look at the balance of it here. One of the characters mentions this. You describe her. She's one of those good souls to whom it comes easy to give, but hasn't ever learned how to comfortably receive. I find that always to be a very unique quality about the human being. Right. Because, you know, on one level, we are selfish, I mean, to a certain extent, but yet there is this deep level, and sometimes from the strangest people and circumstances, that it's so much better for them to give. And it's so hard to receive. Not only a gift, but I mean, receive a compliment, receive love, receive all of those things that are important for us as humans to receive.
There's a whole circle of reasons why, if somebody is a very evolved person on one extreme and wants to help the whole human race become evolved. I mean, I believe that we're all here to serve. We get caught up in our own thing, but we're here to serve. And the universe gives each of us talents. And I think it takes a long time sometimes for the soul in the body to get together and make a living with those talents. But you're here to serve, and so if they're very evolved, that's why they're giving so much. Hard to receive, maybe they don't feel they're worthy. Maybe they're too busy, like a Mother Teresa going at it. On the other hand, maybe they're just insecure, or maybe they're cowardly, or maybe they're so selfish that they want it to be great, not just good. So you can go like a symphony or harmony on the piano as to reasons why. That's what I love about writing, and that's what I love about acting too. I spin my characters in a whole circle to find that thing that's like the character.
Oh, we're going to get to that, because this book, in my opinion, goes a little bit in a, and it's sort of, I'll tell you how. In my, well, later we'll get to it, but I want to get first to some of those things you talked about, because one of the things you see in the writing here is the role that the family plays. We said about, is it how you bring them up? But the family dynamic itself is almost the closest key connection that will make the difference between how a person behaves and how he lives or she lives their life.
A family dynamic is pretty important, and if there's someone out there that doesn't have it, they can create it. They can create it. You don't have to be blood related to have that dynamic. And within the family, there's usually one person that keeps that dynamic going, that knows how important family is. When the chips are down, family's pretty important. And if you don't have one, you can make your own. You can adopt your sister, your brother, or your best friend. It's a family. People you love are a family.
I'm going to talk about the themes, because again, they're the universal themes, as you said, and one of them is the appreciation of life. And the first time you begin to really grasp this, you see a young girl, or I think a young girl, a woman looking at flowers in a vase.
Yes.
And she knows that someone grew those, they were a seed, they're cut now there. But at that moment in time, she's going to appreciate those flowers.
That's right. That's one of my favorite moments in the whole book. It's just a little moment, but it makes me cry because she says to the flowers, most poor fools might just pass you right on by and not notice you, but today, I don't even have my own exact words, but I'll take a moment, I'll stop, and I'll thank you.
May I read them? I have them here because they were so
Okay.
beautiful. That's what I wanted to do.
Please.
And if I don't look at you and soak up your bright yellow perfect formation, your life will be in vain. That's what life is like most of the time. Results depends on some soul like me, as you said, who'll pass you right by. But I'll say thank you today, and I'll give you water.
That's really good.
Isn't it? Aren't you glad you wrote that?
Yeah, I was getting ready to cry. It was moving me to tears.
Well, you know something, because it did, and that's why I had to write the whole thing down, because I felt the same way when I read it, because again, that depth of soul, I love when I see that, and when someone recognizes its importance, that's when they make that turn, that corner around that path. Who knows where that itself is going to lead them.
You know, I have a lot of stuff I've written up in an attic. And lots of times I wrote one screenplay that won me some awards in Europe. But most of the time, if I'm trying to sell a script, this has really happened to me very profoundly, unfortunately so. They say, don't read her script, she's just an actress. That is a line that came back to me. I had a deal at Columbia, then I had a deal with Oliver Stone, and the writers, he said, oh, I'm going to hire these writers for our thing. And they said, oh, he told us don't read her script. She's just an actress. It was only at the end that they start pulling out my material. So the thing is, if you have something to do, or more than one gift, use it. When the time is right, it'll come. These publishers chased me down and said, because short stories are just coming back now. And boy, they need it, I think. And they chased me down and said, we want to publish, we heard you have all these stories. I said, okay, let's take 10 of them and put them in a book. I'll see what you can do. So they sent my book to Rex Reed without telling me for review. Now, Rex is a magnificent critic, and he gave me great reviews twice when I was on Broadway. But he's really hard on writers. When I heard that they'd sent the book to them, I want to tell you something. I got really scared and I started to cry. And when this review that's in this book came out, and they sent me this review, where Rex Reed wrote a review like this, and in that review, he actually compared me to Truman Capote, Flannery O'Connor, Eudora Welty, Carson McCullers, and my cousin Tennessee Williams. And he said Diane Ladd has the same gift they do. Now, when I read that, I got to tell you, I really sobbed. And I said, no matter what experiences I go through in this industry or in this lifetime, I will, as a writer, I will clutch this review to my bosom. And if anything knocks me down, I can pick myself up the rest of my life and move forward, thanks to this particular critic. And then 2 more critics gave me 5 stars. But when you get something like that, it's so rewarding. Well, it's rewarding when you're doing the writing, but I'm hardest on myself.
Well, you know what's rewarding? It's your words again. It's the mission of life. The minute you were born, somewhere your grave was being dug for you, so you had better do in life whatever it was you're supposed to do. That's, again, a theme throughout all 10 stories, virtually.
Yeah.
You must.
I think I live that way.
Now, I told you I was going to mention one character's name and only one character's name, and that's Moment. I cannot help it, but I fell in love, beyond love, with this character, Moment. And Moment, and no one has to know what type of person or anything about it, because it itself has so many potential connotations. Is it in the moment? Is it just a moment of time, a simple second? Is it an eon of time? Could be a moment. Are you caught in the moment? I kept thinking of everything with Moment, because Moment speaks wisdom.
Wow. I think this is the best conversation I've ever had about my book and may ever have in my lifetime. So I want to savor every word that you're saying, Barry, because everything you're saying goes to my heart and soul and is based on truth in the foundation when I write.
Fool's gold. You have this. Giving up, by the way, I'm not going to let you go without saying thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank you for that. That was beautiful. But I'm so, as I told you, I'm so caught up in this that giving up control. Everyone hates giving up control, and you make this analogy when someone is going to a dentist, and the reason why you think people hate dentists is because they're drilling a little close to the brain, so to speak, and it's that lack of control. And there's truth to that. Everyone does. We want to feel, even if we know that randomness rules the roost,
absolutely,
we must feel that we have control.
Right, right. It's our security blanket. It's sucking our thumb. It's a teddy bear. We feel that if maybe things can't go wrong or won't go wrong, and if they do, we'll at least in the final analysis blame ourselves. We were not subject to a whim, but to some form of destiny we created. And it goes back to being selfish, something fishy about the self, though.
Now, interwoven in this unfolding drama of life, I want to get to something is passion. Passion is something that I had an interesting conversation. There's the comment of passion of the Christ, which really could mean suffering. Yes. And yet, if you don't have passion, you can literally be suffering from lack of mission, which we go back to. That's another thing you see, that when the characters with the most passion, and I believe it holds true in life, they seem to enjoy a certain energy different than the rest of us, or different than many of the other characters in these books.
Yeah, it's a destiny fulfillment. Right or wrong, you can't blame yourself if you fail, but you can blame yourself if you don't try. My motto is kick a little dirt. Kick a little dirt. Try. And if you're not supposed to have that at that moment in time or something, okay, but at least you tried. That's the essence.
You know, one of the stories, great day for a train ride. A lot of this is focused in the South. I guess that's because that is where you come from.
This was my theme for this book, was the basis of coming from the South.
And a small town South, or what we would call.
Yeah.
But there is this one where you go from big cities, because you end up in, one of the characters end up in New York. And I found that discovery between life in the small town and life in the big city, even how it affects the characters, it's fascinating how that you see the environment work on their souls.
God, you are so perceptive. Wow, thank you for grasping that.
Again, my pleasure. You
I
wrote
thought I
it,
was
but
being
thank
so
you.
subtle, and I was, I guess, but I think your capacity for understanding and perception goes past subtlety. So thank you for grasping that.
Well, then tell me then, let's explore that a little bit,
Okay.
because as a small town girl in the big city, go ahead.
As a small town, you're way down there. I mean, how far away am I from the next house? Hey, Daddy, Barry's coming. He's coming down the road. Barry's coming. I see his car. In New York? Did he just come home? Shut the door. I'm doing something. I want to keep the sound out. So that's like this, and the other is like, come on, like this. So you're reaching out to pull in most of the time, not always, but the push and pull of our society, the click-click, is a little different. I always say that the South has as much hypocrisy as the North, but at least they'll give you a hug and say, sit down and have something to eat. So if you're going to get hypocrisy, you might as well get a hug and some food, right, at the same time.
Well, this story is taking place, and I do not want to say what's going on, because that was, I think, part of the enjoyment, is the discovery of that. But the line, again, that I feel people can relate to, and it's from a young man. He's using honesty as his weapon.
They say, don't use honesty as a weapon. be honest, but don't use it as a weapon. It's better to tell a little white lie than to use honesty as a weapon. And he does use it as a weapon. Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore comes this. What happens when you do it? The next word, guilt. That's what I put in big letters here. Guilt. God, the guilt he felt from those dreams. I'll leave it at that because I'll just want to, as I said, but guilt, that's the flip side, to doing that.
That's right. There's always a flip side.
That's it.
That's why I say don't cry when you made mistakes. You say, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda. If you'd done a shoulda, woulda, coulda with what you did, you woulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda with whatever you chose. It's life. So we can learn from our mistakes, hopefully. But just know your choices might have been the best you could make for you at that time.
We're hitting the big ones, Diane, and the next big one I want to deal with is fear. As I said, the topic. This one comes from the story of 7 manly men. Okay, fear. The fear of difference of anything that was not of himself. That which a manly man, and we go back to that other thing with the dentist, cannot control. All weaknesses have fear.
Absolutely.
That's the key from our lizard brain time. It's fear.
I think so. I think a fear is lack. Where there's lack, there's limitation, and if you fear, you have a cup that is empty. And if you put love in there, it fills it up. So there's only 2 emotions as an actor that I've experienced in acting. One is love, and one is a lack of love. When I'm acting, and a lack of love, based on the human race, creates horrible fear, and judgments, and angers, and then hatred.
One more theme. I think we're running out of time, but I want to get at least one more theme in here because it seems to run through, and then you actually make a specific connection with it. And I say the word connectivity. And you intimated it before in the beginning of our conversation, but I want to hit it home here. And again, it's with Moment, because she would look back and wonder if her first uprooting was really caused by human beings far across the sea, people she didn't even know. Cells in a body affecting other cells in a body. So the connectivity that she starts with is for people in another country far away, but she takes it all the way down to the cells of her own body.
I think, to put it very simply, that every piece of pie gets paid for one way or another. The good pie you make, or the bad pie, or the unfulfilled pie, or the runny pie, or the too cold or too hard or too out in the cold pie. And are the cells in a body, I feel somehow the older I get that we are really truly close, like I may be you, Barry, you may be me. It's like your thumb does not know what your toe is doing right this minute. But by golly, if that toe gets hurt and hit, sooner or later that thumb's going to know it. And that thumb's going to react to it without even realizing it.
Diane, may I give out your website?
Please.
Would you respond to people and things like that?
Yes, and I have people to help me do it.
Okay, that's fine then. That's good enough. I want to give it out. www.dianeladd.com. It's just as easy at that. I want, though, to be certain. I want to be certain that I mention this because it's a common theme through my show, and it's persistence. And in one of your stories, you say, you don't ever give up on life as long as you're in life.
That's true. And that is what my father taught me. And he actually helped save a young man's life.
Diane, our time is up. I'm going to end with these words that you end. Your authors.
Before you end, can I tell you that this has been one of the greatest privileges and pleasures of my life, hearing you speak about my book in these few moments. Barry, you've just given me a diamond. And a diamond's nothing but a piece of by God coal, but it's stuck to its job. You have given me today a diamond, and I thank you for that.
Well, then I'm going to blow your mind a little further when you hear how this is going to end,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
I can't, I mean, I don't even know how, you talk about receiving. I don't know how to receive even something like that except to say, I'm honored and thank you, Diane. So I am going to end with your author's note, and then you'll see why it's going to be funny at the end of this thing. May each and every one fulfill your destiny with joy and love in light eternal. And thank you, Diane, for all those wonderful things you said and for sharing your light eternal with all of us.
Privilege and pleasure.
And now you'll see why I think this is funny, folks. I want to thank you for joining us, but before Diane leaves, I'd like to leave you with these few more words from A Bad Afternoon for a Piece of Cake. Most people are so busy picking up rhinestones, trying to get rich, they don't see the diamonds life sends them. So Diane, when you said, I feel those diamonds, I knew that. I was ending with that, and I just said, oh my, that is beautiful. I'm Barry Kibrick. Folks, take a close look between those rhinestones and find the diamonds you were meant to see. Thank you so much, Diane.
My privilege, thank you.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, want a DVD or transcript of our show, catch an episode online, or receive our weekly updates, go to www.klcs.org/BTL. Closed captioning is made possible by The Intelligent Optimist, your source for stories and events about possibilities and solutions. Get to know our magazine and visit us at theoptimist.com. Intelligent optimism, a way of life.
We get caught up in our own thing, but we're here to serve, and the universe gives each of us talents.
On this episode of Between the Lines, a soulful look at the human condition with the award-winning actress and humanitarian, Diane Ladd. With her book, A Bad Afternoon for a Piece of Cake, Diane gives us a collection of short stories filled with meaningful lessons and insights that will benefit us all.